Yeah, hi folks. Now today I thought I'd start off with an original Terry Opines joke. What did Rawiri say to his mother when she was breastfeeding him? Oh mummy, mummy, Waititi. But seriously folks, we have some very ignorant tossers in this country, and I'll start this off today with National's Climate Change Minister, Simon Watts.
Fossil fuel phase out! Fossil fuel phase out!
The message from protesters at COP28 is loud and clear. They want the world to commit to phasing out fossil fuels to reduce the effects of climate change. But so far that's not on the table. The latest draft deal calling instead for a transition away from gas, oil and coal.
The language on fossil fuels has improved. We're also pleased to see that there's more explicit mention of nature throughout.
The changes come after backlash to an earlier draft that gave countries options of how they could reduce emissions. For a deal to ultimately be passed, all 198 countries need to agree.
This is a COP that we have to make this decision and get consensus. There is no more time after this.
Yeah, I heard exactly the same last year and the year before that and the decade before that and the decade before that. We have no more time, they say, every year.
And we are not taking that lightly.
Back home, the Climate Change Commission has warned the government we're not on track to meet our 2030 emissions target, an obligation under the International Paris Agreement.
It is a challenge. The gap is about 43 million tonnes. About half of that will be made up from current policies if they're executed, but that still leaves a shortfall equal to about our annual transport emissions.
He's given the government 27 recommendations, but says phasing down fossil fuels is the number one priority.
That's a commitment that will be critical to achieving our emissions budgets and targets.
Our Climate Change Minister says he's pushing for that, while the Resources Minister criticised the work done so far.
We're going to bring rigour and common sense to the hysteria surrounding climate change.
Yeah, hysteria is exactly what it is.
I don't endorse that level of commentary. There is huge pressure. You've simply got to talk to our Pacific neighbours who are facing existential threats.
Yeah. Now, how absurd is that? If climate change is real and these islands are sinking, what possible thing can New Zealand do about it? Absolutely nothing. It is completely absurd. We can do nothing. And here's some more tosses.
Police have arrested 12 protesters involved with defacing the English version of the Tiriti o Waitangi exhibit at Te Papa. Abseiling equipment, spray paint and a power tool were used to vandalise the wooden panel. The protest groups say the translation displayed at our National Museum is misleading. Kushla Norman reports.
Dressed like tradies and high-vis, about a dozen protesters walked into Te Papa at about midday. Their target, a wooden panel of the English version of the Treaty of Waitangi. They painted over the third article, a removal of what they say is a translation that misleads and perpetuates a dangerous lie.
99% of the people who go through Te Papa are going to not be able to understand the Te Reo Māori version, Te Tiriti o Waitangi, the only legal document, and so they're going to read the English artefact, which can be read that sovereignty was ceded, which is absolutely not true.
So over 200 chiefs in 1860 were wrong then. Chiefs swear alliance to the Queen at Kohimarama Conference, 1860. The Kohimarama Conference was held in Auckland in July 1860 and was attended by over 200 chiefs, mainly from the North Island. It was one of the largest and most influential Maori gatherings ever held. The conference revealed the nature of Maori comprehension of the treaty signed 20 years earlier. The conference finished with a resolution passed unanimously at the last session, quote, that this conference takes cognizance of the fact that several chiefs, members thereof, are pledged to each other to do nothing inconsistent with their declared recognition of the Queen's sovereignty and the unions of the two races. No partnership with the Crown. Now that quote in the last article can be backed up here in the Maori Messenger from 1860. Yeah, now I'll fast forward to this crucial bit in a moment. The Maori Messenger, August 15, 1860. Anyway, I'll fast forward to the interesting bit. So let's have a closer look at this. Proceedings of the Kohimarama Conference. Resolutions adopted by the conference on the 10th August 1860. The chiefs having assembled in the conference hall, Pakeha rose and proposed the following resolution: that this conference takes cognizance of the fact that the several chiefs, members thereof, are pledged to each other to do nothing inconsistent with their declared recognition of the Queen's sovereignty and of the union of the two races. So this clearly shows they ceded sovereignty. Now to the next important bit, and we'll have a closer look at this. To prevent any misunderstandings, To prevent any misunderstandings, the resolutions were afterwards written out, and it was requested that those chiefs who approved of them should sign their names thereto. The following signatures were attached. Yeah, now this bit here just explains this. Of the 110 chiefs present, only 3 dissented through a perceived lack of clarity on one particular issue and therefore disapproved, the issue being over the Taranaki War. Now to the next tosser.
A Tauranga iwi has filed an urgent claim in the Waitangi Tribunal against the new coalition government's actions and policies.
Ngāi Te Rangi claim the government is attacking its language, culture and mana. Political reporter Amelia Wade explains.
The clash of Māori against the coalition marked its first day in office. The resistance and the government are now in week 2.
A lot of our people feel like we're being sent back to those days when being Māori was seen as a handicap.
Oh, that's not at all how I want anyone to feel.
But feel it they do, because while the Prime Minister is happy to open his press conferences with a mihi,
Ka nui te mihi kia koutou. Kia ora, good afternoon everybody.
He wants government departments to use English first.
This government is proposing to introduce legislation which is totally denigrating of Te Reo Māori. And in denigrating Te Reo Māori, they're also denigrating us.
Ngāi Tarangi this morning launched an urgent claim with the Waitangi Tribunal about the Coalition's instruction for government departments to use English names, communicate primarily in English.
But the Waitangi Tribunal does not have any veto power over the government, and even this lefty admits it. Barrister and former Treaty Negotiations Minister Chris Finlayson said Price was wrong, as the Waitangi Tribunal did not have any form of veto over the government. But that veto power is changing, folks.
We had a Maori woman travel to Australia because she understands on the ground in New Zealand as to the outcomes of certainly the Waitangi Tribunal, which is now in place, and the way in which they have veto power over the New Zealand government, to the extent that an example of a policy that they managed to encourage the government to take on was that during COVID, while New Zealand were rolling out their vaccination, they had prioritised the elderly to receive vaccinations first. The Waitangi Tribunal argued that it was Māoris who were particularly, of greater risk in comparison to everybody else. So therefore, they reprioritised the rollout of their vaccines to give young Māori people the vaccine over the elderly population who were in fact non-Māori. And as far as I'm concerned, that is not equality, and that is an example of where things can go terribly wrong on the basis of race.
Yeah, now folks, it's going to get worse with UNDRIP. Now to the biggest tosser of them all.
Aropu e mahi ana mo ngā tamariki rawa kore e karanga ana kia heke te whika o ngā tamariki rawa kore mā te pēne, mā te hiki i te whiwhinga pūtea, mā te ngāwari i te hoko kai me te māwiwi ārai.
Is the member going to translate that, or does he want to give the Minister a moment to receive that translation?
A point of order, Mr. Speaker.
No, it's only a question. It wasn't in any kind of a direction.
Absolutely not.
Okay. No, that's that wrong.
You can tell me in English, or you can...
Well, the question doesn't need to be answered if the Minister doesn't, or the Prime Minister in this case, doesn't feel like he wants to answer it. So, does the Minister want to have another
supplementary?
Mr. Speaker, a question, I guess strictly speaking, your ruling is in order, but the practice in the time I've been in the House is that is only done when a question is definitively out of order. We have a simultaneous translation system in the House to allow for members to answer. I wonder whether the right course of action here might be for Mr. Waititi to repeat the question and the acting Prime Minister to use his earpiece for the translation.
Now, how stupid is that? Why can't Waititi just speak in English?
Speaking the point of order. We've got a question. I
just wish that the courtesy of the House would apply. So the person asking the question, Mr. Speaker, point of order. So the person asking the question also had the comfort that the people who are watching on television also are part of this parliamentary debate. That's what a democracy is called. It's not about just about 5%. It's about the other 95% who pay as well. It's called one people, one country.
Exactly.
Now back to my point. If the member's concerned about the cost of living, no. On the marae, Megan, you keep quiet. Right? You know. Willie knows that. He keeps quiet too. You don't shout out like some bunch of clowns at university.
And of course, the clowns left in a hissy fit.
And this is the disgrace. He's a perfect example of a Polynesian. He's exactly what he is. He's a perfect example of a Polynesian.
Polynesian, really. Is that the best the Maori Party can do? And for the life of me, I don't understand why they allow a racist name like the Maori Party. So let's start a European party and see how they react. Anyway, folks, I've posted all the relevant links below.